Hey everybody, Mike here. So today we're going to discuss the 5 shocks I've experienced here in Poland. There are many others, but these are my first 5 shocks from first living here in Poland and how I have experienced them in my own personal encounters. I just want to say this to start off this video, Polish people. This is a generalization. These are experiences I have seen firsthand, and I try not to touch or discuss topics that I feel something I wouldn't be confident in saying. So this one's for you, the 5 Polish shocks. So this is my number one shock when I moved here to Poland. It's actually quite a skill. Peeing in public and peeing on the side of the road.
Here we go.
I don't have any other way to explain this, but it's a skill. And you have to find a very good corner. You have to know how to position yourself. You have to angle yourself. You're going to need to know these life skills. In Poland, you have very limited time because in Poland, there's always somebody kind of somewhere. They're peeking from under a bush, from the side from the bush. They're looking out of their window.
Gladys, will you stay away from that window?
I experienced this the first time when I was driving to Warsaw and I needed to use the restroom, and I was a passenger in a car. And there are a lot of gas stations here in Poland, and unlike in America where you need the key, I don't know if any of you Polish people know this, but in America we have very limited places to go release or relieve ourselves. So if in fact you find somebody that's nice enough to allow you to relieve yourself, they usually give you this key attached to a stick. And it's dirty, it's filthy. You're thinking how many hands have touched this nasty stick. So this kind of just tells you, just as a trust factor, how different this country is compared to the United States. So what happened was, we're driving to Warsaw. I couldn't wait any longer. The driver said, "Hey, when I pull over, just you can just use it." And I was waiting for some type of gas station, some type of facility, something that looked very official, and I didn't see it. So as we pulled over, I was just told, "Yeah, just use it right here. It's not a problem." So here I am, back to all the cars on the road passing by, and I had to relieve myself on the side of the road. And I thought for sure, from an American standpoint, you would be shamed for peeing on the side of the road. But somehow here in Poland is universally accepted. I don't know how and why it became like this, but I thought for sure somebody was going to honk, throw a water bottle at me. I thought for sure somebody would say something. And what I observed after that moment, my initial moment in having to do this, is that everywhere I've driven thus far, it's very common to see a man pull his truck over, pull his car over, and relieve himself on the side of the road. So that's my number one Polish shock, peeing on the side of the road. Number two, the return policies. In Poland, when you buy something from a department store or an electronics store, you'd have to have a pretty good reason to return something here in Poland. So I purchased a drone, a DJI Tello, very cheap, very inexpensive, but really expensive here for Poland. And I flew it one time, and I noticed the camera quality wasn't as good as I thought it was. And I probably should have done more research about this drone, but I was on a really tight budget. Things are tight here. But anyway, nonetheless, I bought this drone, flew it one time, packed it back up, nice and neat, original packing, went back to the store and tried to return it. And the manager came out and he was basically saying, "No way in hell you could return this." He was looking at the packaging, he was inspecting it. He said he didn't know what he could now do with this return drone. I learned in Poland, when you buy something, it's not enough that you think about it. You must think about it and think about it and think about it more. And when you think you've thought about it enough, think about it more. You have to think, do I really need this item? where will it go in my house? What is the purpose of this purchase? You have to think. You have to go to sleep on it. You might have to consult with family members. You have to think when you buy something here in Poland. You have to know for sure 1,000% if in fact you buy this item, you're married to it. There's no talk of returning it. The return policies here are, for the most part, with clothing okay, but in general, if you want to buy something in Poland, you better think about it and think about it and think about it. Because it is very difficult to return things here. So if you're an American and you're visiting Poland and you want to go shopping and have second thoughts about that purchase, you better think about it. Another cultural shock I have experienced here. I was shocked at how tall the women are here.
Miss me?
I don't suppose you want to hear my side of this.
I'm an average height guy. I stand at 5'10". I think is roughly about 173 centimeters. But on average, the average woman I've run across personally, or if I'm just randomly walking down the street, sometimes I have to stop and just.
Damn!
I'm really just shocked at how tall some of the women here are that I've run across. I have a few students who are pretty much skyscrapers. They dwarf me. It's a given about the men. Some men I've seen here also could play on basketball teams. They're really, really tall guys I've run across. I play pool with a guy. He's 6'5". If you're a short guy, it could be a little intimidating, I guess, if you want to date a Polish woman. But there's enough tall men and tall women to go around, so I haven't seen these couples where there's such a tall woman and a short man, because in general, Poland as a country, I would say the people are pretty tall. So that was a shock for me. So another cultural shock I read about before moving to Poland was that Polish people don't smile. I learned something in those stories that I read on the internet about how Polish people aren't very endearing to strangers, how they don't smile. They actually came to be true. They don't know how to accept it. There's been many times where I've walked down the street, people have on blinders, people are looking down. Look down, you'll always be a slave. Look down, look down. Polish people could care less about you and your smiles. Poland started to make me develop a mean face, and I don't have a mean face. I don't want to walk around with a mean face. So I tried on a few occasions to smile at people. I tried to make eye contact with them. But in general, I try to look at people, try to smile. But it's not something that happens here. Polish people, for whatever reason, given the history, I can understand it. So again, this is not about condemnation on Polish people. This is just about my observations as an American living here in Poland. Polish people do not smile. So if you're an American visiting Poland, don't expect a smile. Don't expect a smile. So another cultural shock for me, I never saw so many people stare at one person.
Well, there it is. Stare down.
And I don't know if it's because everybody knows each other in these small cities and these small villages, and probably the village mentality, to be honest with you. But when I moved to Poland and experienced this for the first time, I feel like I was stopping traffic. Cars were screeching. Initially, I kind of took it for racism. I thought these people were looking at me because I was not of the same skin color, not of the same complexion, and I did really feel turned off in the beginning, and it actually made me stay in the house a lot. I think the first year here in Poland, I rarely left the village. The city's a different story. These are two totally different worlds. Living in a Polish city in comparison to a Polish village is two different worlds. So when I lived in this village for a year and a half, after people got acclimated to me, they knew who I was. The stares, you know, they decreased. But if you know this small city, Pleshev, it's encompassed by villages. So not every villager has seen me, and from time to time when I still go back to the village, I still get these stares, these looks as if I'm some alien. I just got used to and learned how to ignore it, because if you take it personally, which you can't take anything personally here in Poland, because you will find yourself living a very miserable life. So if you're an American living in a Polish village, one of the other shocks, and my last one, is that people will stare at you. And it's very uncomfortable at first, but if you get used to it, it's really coming from a place of curiosity. Most of these situations, when I had an opportunity to speak with anybody, it's just because I'm a stranger in a small village, and people were just curious about me. And then once they found out I was from America, even more reasons. So I was kind of like this small poor man celebrity here in this Polish village. So one of the experiences you might come across is that people will stare at you. So that's it. These are my 5 cultural shocks. Mike in Poland. Cześć.